Alright, I'm going to show you some of the things I use to fix my lighters. I just bought these at the dollar store here. You get 3 of these lighters for $1, disposable lighters. So, you know, what I usually do is go through and what I use these for is for parts. I wanted to break this down and show you guys exactly what I use for parts. I just basically destroy this lighter, okay? Now this lighter might. Yeah, I don't know if you just get in there and tear it apart. What I usually do too when I'm doing this, I'll save the springs and stuff out of here, and the flint. That's a perfectly good flint, and the lighter, and you can see that flint down there. It's perfectly good flint. No sense throwing that away, so them things are saved. I don't know how many of these you need to save. I'll save them back anyway. But once I get this far, bend them off a little bit. Take this little paddle off. Little flame adjustment. Take a screwdriver here and unloosen this valve right here, your flame valve. Just unscrew it counterclockwise. You'll start hearing butane seep out of it. Alright, now when you get done, you can save this back. I mean, it don't hurt in case that's technically called a filter, okay? You can save that back. There's an O-ring. O-ring came off of here, okay? Now, this little burger right here is basically what I buy these lighters for. This is called a pressure regulator. Alright. I don't know if I got it focused in too much, but you know, I just usually, this is what I use when I'm rebuilding my lighters. And it needs it, when I say it needs a new filter. I can't see. I don't have my glasses on. I'm way behind the camera. But there's a pressure regulator there, and there's a metal backing plate on the back of it. Okay? That's that. Now, another thing you can do too is, well, hold on a second here. Here we go. You see this valve assembly here? Take this valve assembly here, pull that back off. Alright, that'll just come right off. Look, just like that. And there's your valve. Now there's a small O-ring here, and there's a spring. Save the O-ring, you never know, and save the spring. Now, some of these lighters, butane lighters you get, you see this here, right here in the back here. I don't know if that's focusing in or not. But anyway, let me focus back out on it. That's a little rubber stopper. Alright. Save those too. Those are, you don't buy those. Okay, you either make one or you find one in a lighter. That's your two options. Okay, so those those springs, save your springs. Okay, this other stuff, save your flint. You can save that. Put this other stuff, if you're not going to use it, you can throw it in the garbage. These things here I don't keep. I'll keep them if they're brass, but you know, they're a dime a dozen, you know. So anyway, that's where I get a lot of my parts to rebuild these Zama lighters. Okay, the pressure regulator. Basically all you need to rebuild these lighters. This one here, this one here is the Zama lighter I got. That I keep this one. This is actually this lighter here that I did my video here a little bit ago. This lighter here was a pipe lighter. I took the pipe valve out of that and put it in this one here to turn this here little lighter into a pipe lighter. And this valve that was in this one is you know, I'll put the straight flame in. Either way, it's a good lighter, but that's what you can use for parts, okay, for rebuilding these. And another thing, you're going to need seals. Let's see here, O-rings, seals. That valve assembly inside the oh, let's see, it's not the valve. Let's see, is it the valve? Yeah, it's the valve assembly inside. They usually come with a square type thick washer. Alright, but I got an O-ring here. This is the perfect O-ring for rebuilding that. Okay, this is a 5 by 1.5. You can get on eBay, you get 20 of these or so for about a couple, $2 or $3. But basically, here's what it is. I'll give you the dimensions. It's 5 millimeters across. Okay, each one of the on each side here is a 1.5 millimeters. So that's 3 millimeters. That means this internal space right here is 2 millimeters, because that makes a total of 5 millimeters. Okay, so they're going to say it might read 5 by 2 by 1.5, or might read 5 by 1.5 by 2, whatever. This is the O-ring that you want for rebuilding that that valve on the inside. You want this O-ring, and you want this stopper right here. This well, they call them pressure regulators. I just call it a filter, but it's a pressure regulator. All right, that's what you want. As far as O-rings, you know, for like your filler valve, if you want to rebuild that, well, you know, let's see here. Some of these are a little bit bigger that I got, but I think I used my last one. It was like maybe 9 by 7 by 1. Okay, 9 millimeters wide, 7 millimeter internal diameter, and 1 millimeter on the cord on each side. That makes, you know, 9. So I think that's the size on that. You know, if it's a little bit, that outside, the main thing on when you put the O-ring around the outside of the filler valve, the main thing is you don't want the thickness of the cord any bigger than the one you got, because if it's thicker than the original, it might not go inside the recess in there like it's supposed to and seal it off. You know, if you have to you know, spread that O-ring out because it's a little bit smaller, that's no big deal on that, just as long as you got the right thickness of it. Okay, and usually when you buy, you know, you fix some of these lighters, like I got this, well, I haven't put it back together yet, but I got this Savinelli pipe lighter right here I'm working on. Let me see, I don't know if I got anything in this or not. I might not have anything in there. I don't think I got any gas in here, but no, I don't have any gas in this. No, I don't, because it leaked. It leaked out the front. There's some adjustment I got to do in here, but I can rebuild one of these too, and that pressure washer, you could use that to rebuild the pressure washer in here. The O-rings are, well, I don't know, I got some of them. I think there's a 4 by 1 by 2, and I think I use a maybe a 5, or I think it's maybe a 6 by 4. I think I used a 6 by 4 by 1 and a 4 by 2 by 1. Okay, for this internal valve here. All right, but that comes with just measuring, you know, measuring stuff. And I'll tell you what, if you don't have a measuring tool, get online. I got on eBay and got this. Okay, I got this here caliper set right here. This is handy. It's handy because a lot of things that you get are in millimeters, okay, like O-rings and stuff. So this has got a setting for millimeter up here, and you can set it to for inches, and you can set it to for fractions. Fractions, I don't know if you can see that. Zoom in a little bit. There's fractions, millimeters, and inches. So, you know, I use this too for like measuring my drill bits and stuff like that if I happen to be drilling something out for whatever reason. But this is probably one of the best kept secrets right here as far as I'm concerned. If you're working on lighters, you better have something like this. That's just all there is to it. I think I paid I think it was like 20 bucks for that. And I'll tell you what, it's cheap and it's good. Works just great. Best caliper ever used. You know, a lot of these products now they're getting out of China. I mean, I'll say for instance like this here lighter, or not lighter, but this here little scale. I use this for like when I'm filling my lighters up and checking how much butane they hold. Alright, let me see what they got this set on here. What is it? Units. It's set on ounces. Let me settle on grams right there. Okay, and let's zero it right there. Now I don't know if you can see that, but right here, this here's a 50 gram weight. Look at that, 50.00. This here is a 200 gram weight. Look at that, 200.00. I paid like $7-8 for the scale. I had one of those little palm scales I paid $70 for. This scale whips it 10 to 1, easy. And I tell you what, for $7 or $8 it goes bad, man. Throw it out and get you another one. But anyway, if you guys got any questions or anything, some of the tools I use, I tell you what comes in handy. You know, like if you got to dig off O-rings, you know, get them out. Get you some of these little tools like this for getting under something and popping your O-ring off. And I use some of these leather hole punches right here for making new rubber gaskets for an odd size that you can't buy. You know, the main thing for these right here that I use these for is for making a rubber gasket for the inside of a filler valve, because those are small. They got a big, they might be like 3 or 4 millimeters across, but they might have a 1 millimeter hole in the middle. So, you know, I'll use something like this and get you the appropriate thickness of some silicone rubber, punch it out, then you get with the bigger one, then you get one of these that's got a small hole, and you measure appropriately and cut it out. And I bought some of these on eBay too. These are good for say for instance, like right here on this here I think on this Savinelli here, does that fit in there? No, it's, yeah, this one does. I'm trying to do this, people, without glasses on and the light's low. See that? Gets right in there and loosens that up. Now, I can't see what I'm doing, but it gets in there and loosens that up. I'll tell you what, too, what's really been kind of neat for me, too, is one of these. You know, different thicknesses. You know, you got the one right here that'll reach in there and finish that out the rest of the way. Okay. And you pop the filler valve off of this here. The filler valve on these lighters like this, these Zama lighters, don't lose them. And you'll know the reason why if you don't know, because once you take that off, this end will pop right off, okay? But you see how this filler valve is right there. So, you know, I don't have anything really that big, but this will work big enough just to get in there and get you going, you know, to break it free. Alright? So you got to be careful when you're pulling them out too, because you don't, if they're in there pretty tight, you know, watch what you're doing, because you don't want to holler out that brass there, because you'll never get it out from then on out. This is the old style Japanese, doesn't have a hole in it. I was saying on my previous video how that takes that special filler valve like this. And the reason is it's got the hole set to the offside, because this just doesn't have a hole in the middle. What it does is gas seeps down the side and goes in a little bitty crevice. But putting a hole off the side, and then they put an O-ring on here, lets the gas go down in between the metal pin and the O-ring. But yeah, it gives you, you know, it lets you be able to, it just lets you work. Alright, that's what you need for this type of lighter. Okay, then you just put this back. Well, I kind of put the head right here, and I put the writing on just like this. So, you know, I hate buying lighters that people haven't put the filler cap back on. You know, I can understand if it's laying on your, you know, your lighter table or your, you know, cigarette table or desk or whatever you got, but you know, filler valves are these covers here are for a reason. That's to keep any debris out of that valve, because if you happen to put this in there and you don't have a cover for that filler valve, you stick it in your pockets and you get lint or whatever down in there, next thing you know, you got a clogged up filler valve and you got a leaky lighter. So keep them on there. Alright, anyway, that's just a short video, you guys looking, and eventually over a period of time, you know, like I've made some handmade tools, like this tool here. Used to be a thin screwdriver. Of course, I grind it down the thickness that I need, then I get a small Dremel tool. And what's this for right here? No, that's for different lighters. See these lighters like this, on this valve on the inside here, there's a little pin that sticks out, but there's a little on the inside where you can get it, and that's basically is your main flame adjustment valve. And this lighter gets it, this gets right in there and hits that pin, so I can adjust the flame height where I want it set. What it basically does, what it does on these lighters, this Savinelli lighter, is it adjusts your maximum flame that you want. Okay, you don't want the flame to blow any higher. You know, you say I want a maximum flame of say 2 inches, so you'll adjust that to where like 2 inches. Then when you're done, you'll stick your let me grab it here. When you're done and you reassemble it, you'll stick this screw back in there. That will punch, that will compress the pin in the middle, and when you do that, it pushes it back up and it takes the flame and makes it smaller. Okay, so this is your fine-tuned flame adjustment here, flame height adjustment. The one in there that this tool is made for is just basically just your maximum flame height. Okay, so it's little bitty tools that you got to hand make. You know, ain't like they got places out there. You know, some of them things you can buy, but you can't buy them for certain lighters. So sometimes you got to just hand make everything. This is a handy little product here if you can get it. Okay, it will come in handy. I've had to make this here piece here that I made for the electric lighters, the ones that have a battery in them. They got what they call a plate on the bottom that it's got a filler valve screw in it like this, but you take that out to fill it. But after you take it out, there's another screw, kind of like what I was saying earlier, that is a little bit wider, that you've got to unscrew it after there's a double screw. You take out the filler valve screw, there's still a little screw on the outside that slots that you can stick something in like this, which is a little heavier, so you can unscrew it, take the bottom plate off and stick your battery in it. So I hand made this for that, but I'll probably end up changing this for something else, because I'm not buying any more of them electric lighters. I mean, they're just, you know, it's 50-50 crapshoot. You know, if you get one and electronics is bad, then you got a junk lighter. I do have one in here that I haven't reassembled lately, but anyway, I'll get back to it sooner or later. I got lighters here that need reassembled. I got some J&J lighters, and I got some lighter parts, but you know, I just do this, give me something to do. You know, my wife works at night, you know, and sometimes, you know, when you're concentrating on little things like this, and, you know, maybe it just makes the day go by a little relaxing, a little easier. It's quiet in here, you can think, and, you know, and kind of beats the monotony. I mean, sometimes there isn't anything worth watching on television, but it gives me something to do, and I mark them up probably $20 or so on these lighters when I fix them, you know, and that's not really that making any money, 20 or 30 bucks, whatever it is. A lot of it's, you know, by the time I pay 10% eBay, and you know, and I buy O-rings and stuff like that, and then I might use the extra funds to buy another lighter, just turn around and fix it. But, you know, there ain't no money to be made for me doing this. Just more of a hobby, you know. I take an old lighter that these old lighters that are quality built lighters. These lighters don't have plastic tanks. They're basically just all constructed, hollowed out, milled out, however they do it, formed, and you know, and they're a solid construction. And these things, if you build them or if you rebuild them, and you use clean, good butane. I recommend Zycar high performance butane in these. Some of the best butane you can get. If you got a torch lighter having problems with it, you're in high altitude, get some of that high performance Zycar butane. And another thing, if you got a butane lighter you're having problems with it, you got to remember that after your lighter empties, you know, these cans of butane, they're pressurized, they got air in them. Well, you know, if you get a lot of air in these tanks from just constant refills, you know, sometimes these lighters won't work like they should. So, before you refill it, I got one of these Zycar, you know, and I pop it down there and stick it up to your ear and keep holding it until you don't hear no air coming out of that. I did this one time when I first started. I had one of these clear bodied plastic lighters, you know, and I filled it up, and I thought, man, the butane isn't going to the top. I couldn't figure out why. I was pretty new at this time. But I looked at it, and it says you got to purge your tank. You got to purge the air from your tank. So I had butane in it, say up to here, for instance, and this is the top level. Say I had up to here. So anyway, I started purging it, and I started getting the air out. There wasn't no butane coming out, but I started getting air out. Then you can see the butane level go down as I was doing this. It started bubbling, and the butane level was going down. Then after it went down, some of the air started. The air was, you know, coming out of the tank, excavated from the tank, whatever, you know, evacuated from the tank. I stuck a new can, I stuck a butane can on there, filled it up, and went all the way to the top. Now that air in your tank will give you grief. You could actually think something's wrong with the lighter when actually it just needs a good bleeding. Okay, so and if you're you got a half a tank, say a butane, say for instance, you're going out and you want to put more in it because you don't know when you're going to be back. Yeah, just go ahead and pop it up. You know, you don't have to bleed your whole tank or anything, get it out. But you know, when it's empty, don't hurt to check it and make sure you got all the air evacuated out of there before you fill it up. All right, guys, if you got any questions or anything, just go ahead and let me know. I'll do my best to answer it.